What's up, guys, and thanks for watching our Holiday Cartridge Talks series. We are excited to bring you our first ever limited edition Vortex Nation podcast hoodie. If you're watching on YouTube, it's the one I'm wearing right now. Now, we only made 99 of these things, so when they're gone, they are gone. Click the link in the description to get yours. Thanks again, and enjoy the show. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to our Holiday Cartridge Talks. Yes, nothing says the holidays like talking about some of our favorite cartridges. And guys, I gotta be honest with you, I'm feeling a little dangerous today.
Ooh.
And nothing handles danger, or dangerous game, I should say, Ryan, like the 470 Nitro Express. It just sounds big. It sounds dangerous.
It is big. It is dangerous.
This thing, if you're watching on the old YouTube machine, this is a substantial cartridge.
Yes, it is.
It's big. It's like
it looks like a Glock barrel.
Just for fun,
you can barely neck it down.
we're going to we're going to put a 300 Winchester Magnum, a cartridge of renowned power and stature, in between these two 470 Nitro Express cartridges.
It's dwarfed.
It is a little bit of so that 300 Win Mag there. That's a 180 grain projectile. Bracketing it are two 500 grain projectiles.
500
grains.
This is loaded with Hornady's DGX, Dangerous Game Expanding.
Yes.
Bonded bullet.
Yep.
I was reading, it says that thing retains about 95% of its weight. And when you think about the types of critters that it's going through, Cape buffalo, elephants, hippos.
There's a rhinoceros on this thing. On the box.
There is.
On the box.
There is a rhinoceros on the box.
Pointing that out.
I mean, it is the picture of power, the quintessential picture of cartridge power, this thing, in my opinion. This one is very not new.
No, 1907.
That's so cool.
I mean, this is like a turn-of-the-century cartridge, practically.
Yes.
And it still, I mean, this is a factory loading. You can get this today.
Yep.
In fact, we got it a couple days ago.
Yep.
From a store.
Yes. For being a goofy bore diameter, the simple fact that this one stuck where others have fallen. There's been a smattering of 45, 46, 485s, 50s, in between there.
It's because it's followed by the words Nitro Express.
Well, there's a lot of Nitro Express cartridges.
I know, but I'm just saying that didn't hurt it.
No, it didn't.
A great name.
It is interesting that that's the one that stuck.
Because this is the most popular of those cartridges, correct?
Oh, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Yes, undoubtedly. So you can get a smattering of Nitro Express cartridges throughout a huge variety of bullet palettes. The 470, the 450, 400, the 500, and the 600. 577 is probably still up there. Are still viable. The 470 is the one that everybody knows about.
Mm-hmm.
Did it strike a performance sweet spot, or was it just that was, like were more rifle manufacturers making 470 Nitro Expresses versus everything else? Like there had to have been something that happened.
So
yes.
Can I read this to you? And now this isn't anything anybody can't get off the old wiki, and maybe this is exactly what you're going to say, Ryan. But the lead sentence here says, the 470 Nitro Express is a rifle cartridge developed by Joseph Lang in England for dangerous game hunting in Africa and India. This cartridge is used almost exclusively in double rifles. Followed by original, practice my words, developed after the 500 was not allowed or something like that.
45 was not allowed.
45.
Yes. So there was a...
I got all mixed up with my words.
Well, it's
I
okay.
just
excited.
flubbed
Where
it.
you were going is good. So 450.
A replacement for the 450 Nitro Express, yes.
Yeah. There's this kind of still exists to this day, depending on where you are at in the world. Military bore diameters and military cartridges being verboten for civilian ownership.
Right.
Even the bore diameter of 45 caliber was a no-no. And this is some old Crown rules. And so it was a rapid, I don't know, you call it a pivot, to get something viable on scene that could kill a rhinoceros or an elephant or a hippo or, any large toothed, horned, or clawed critter. Enter 470 Nitro Express. And here it is to this day. 1907 was a long time ago. Was it 1907?
Yeah, 1907.
1907, long time ago. 450's kind of back on scene though too. There's been a handful of them out and about as well.
I know where I got confused with the 500 because the 500 is the parent case to the 450.
Sure. Okay. Yep. So Nitro Express, couple things about that too. Everybody's like, what the heck does that mean, Nitro Express? Nitro inspires the powder, or I should say propellant, because powder isn't quite the right word. Cordite.
Yeah.
Yes. Cordite. So most of these, you look at their design elements and their lineages, and these are from old BPE cartridges, Black Powder Express.
Mm-hmm.
Express is to inspire speed, power, much like a belt on a belted Magnum.
Mm-hmm.
And there was muzzle-loading rifles, there was black powder cartridge rifles, and then there was Black Powder Express rifles, which are all still very large, voluminous cases, right? The Nitro Express elevated those. So if you took a cartridge like 450 BPE, Black Powder Express, this was a viable ivory cartridge at some point in time. And then all of a sudden you sprinkle a little nitro on there. You give it cordite, a stronger case perhaps, a stronger rifle action, and now you've really, really got something that'll push a Packy over. That was some good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Packy being pachyderm elephants.
Yeah. Oh, look at you.
Yeah. So Nitro Express, the cartridge was originally loaded with cordite, which we've talked about on the podcast before. Long spaghetti noodle.
Yeah,
of
looks
powder.
like.
Yep.
Now, the modern loadings are not.
No. Modern loadings are smokeless propellant.
So one of the things that I wonder is like back then in in the very early 1920s, right?
Yep.
Loading it with cordite, right? So part of the reason they had to make the case the way that it is to fit cordite in there, right? So then when you go to modern loadings, they're probably looking at this like, we don't have to fit those dry spaghetti noodles in here anymore. We could just use regular granules of powder.
Yes.
So did they have to develop new powders or something like that to match or to, when filled up in the case, match what the cordite was doing? Or did they unlock now like additional?
So you ask a great
curious.
question. You ask a great question. And we look at a cartridge design like this is very old, right? So it has things reminiscent of American Buffalo cartridges, like think 4570, 4590, 45 100, 110, 50 110, etc. Big, long, tapered case. In the case of the 470, there's a very subtle shoulder on it and a big rim, right? So the Nitro Express cartridges come out and they are certified stoppers. So this is a cartridge that you use to stop a buffalo charge, an elephant charge, a rhino charge, a lion charge. And by that, they absolutely crush bone. And they go end to end on things. If you want to go through an elephant's skull, this is one that gets you there.
Well, and I'd say, this is a bonded bullet, but, oftentimes used with solids. Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. Sometimes a shooter would have a soft in one barrel, solid in the other. Soft was your first round, solid was your second.
Well, and also, so you just said in one barrel than the other,
Yep.
because this is oftentimes, if not nearly always, shot out of a double rifle.
Yes.
Maybe always is maybe a little
like
too strong, but
a Farquharson style action, single shot. There's some folks that were making these in Ruger number ones. That would be disgusting to shoot. But so you ask a really good question about propellant technology and what we'll call like cartridge viability in a modern era. So you have the Nitro Express rounds, turn of the century developments, vestigial carryovers from Black Powder Express cartridges, black powder cartridges in general. And then you get into the conventional bottleneck. And I'll just like lean toward Holland specifically and their 375 H&H Magnum and the 300 H&H Magnum and cartridges like that, especially the 375. And then some newer cartridges like the Jeffries, maybe I'm getting ahead of the game with the Gibbs, the Rigby's, where we have a smaller case, modern designs, not as large a bullet. So 470 Nitro is a big bullet, but we're in the 458s, the 416s, the 400s, the 375s. And we're pushing them at considerably higher velocities. We have a trade-off. We don't have the frontal area, but we have higher sectional density. We have higher velocity. We're bringing energy to the table. We're gaining penetration. And now it's kind of like shelving some of the viability of the BP and Nitro Express cartridges in new case designs to contend with the modern powders.
Right.
Like smokeless powder.
Is it giving you similar performance, if not better performance, in like kind of like a smaller, more shootable package?
Turnbolt rifles, so repeaters.
Okay.
And I think, and I don't hunt dangerous game, and never have hunted dangerous game. I do like rifles, for sure. When folks are still running around with these, every time I think of who owns and runs Nitro Express cartridge and rifle, the thing that is inspiring me the most is a very seasoned, scarred up guide or tracker that has a stopping rifle on his shoulder, that his client coming over there to hunt, a Cape buffalo, an elephant, a rhinoceros, a lion, a leopard, and they want the boom boom that 2 triggers and 2 barrels gives you when seconds are too long, and we need a reaction in a second. The double rifle sorts that out.
Do you think that this person also maybe has an affinity for a fine firearm?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. What's interesting is you see some pictures, like we've got some clientele that are professional hunters in Africa especially, and you see exquisite German, English, Belgian built double, and it's just thrashed from being carried.
I love that.
Oh, just cooked. And we're talking about a gun that starts around that 8,000 to 10,000 US range. And that thing is just beat. And I'm talking beat as the Land Cruiser they throw it into. But its sole purpose is stomping out large things with bad attitudes.
Right.
So throughout all of that, we have this old cartridge that served a spectacular purpose. At its inception, it solved a problem that was out there, and that was the what do we call the banning of this particular bore diameter. Comes to the scene, it's an absolute bone crusher, and then all of a sudden, modern like cartridge development, rifle development, conventional wisdom at the time comes out. We get these faster, flatter, sometimes arguably harder hitting cartridges on scene that you can now get in a repeater. And marketing happens, and you can put 5 rounds in that big perch belly Mauser, and it still stands the test of time. And you can still buy a Krieghoff, a Merkel, a Sabati in 470 Nitro Express all these years later.
Let me ask you this question, Ryan. Somebody says, I'm going to give you the double rifle of your choice.
Yeah.
I don't care whose it is. Or maybe you could say, oh, if I was going to get one, I would get this one. But what cartridge do you get your double rifle in?
Can I only have one?
Yes. That's the point of this
question. That's an impossible question, Mark.
It's not an impossible question.
It's an impossible question.
It's not an impossible
Allow
question.
me to walk you through this. First on the list is a Peter Hoffer Hummingbird rifle. I want a 3-barrel set, 17 HMR, 22 Hornet, and 410. That's actually 6 barrels when you look at it. Okay, so that's one. Then I want to stroll on over.
You ever feel like you just opened up Pandora's box and like wish you could just reel your question back in?
I want to stroll on over to Holland's, and I would like to have a nice double done up in something a little eclectic. And I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, 303 British, maybe 30 Arblazer. I don't know. It's just something out there.
Just something fun.
Yeah. Not conventional cartridge design. Rimmed, it takes it. But a little faster, flatter shooting gun. I'd like leaf sights regulated to 300 yards on that one. And then I mean, if money's no object, how do you say no to a Holland & Holland Royale? I mean, honestly, phenomenal.
Chambered in?
Probably 470.
Okay.
Or 450, 400, or 453 and a quarter, 500. All would do. 470 is the easy button, right? But then I think to myself, like, okay, I need a working gun. Okay, so the Holland's beautiful. It's the embellishment, the engraving, the wood, the locks, the trigger guard, the lines, everything about that rifle is pure artistry. But I need a working gun. I need a rifle that if I get into a tango with a leopard or a lion or a swarm of Cape Buffalo, I need a gun that's just box lock tough. Use it as a weapon when I'm out of ammo. I stroll on over to Suhl, Germany, and I knock on the old Merkel door. I get a 140, 141 maybe, chambered in 470 nitro. Get the mercury recoil reducers in it. I want it regulated at 100.
Talk about that one a little bit more. You mentioned recoil reducers. I'm very curious because we're talking about a double gun, which doesn't have some sort of an action to soak up the recoil. When I look at something like a 470 Nitro Express, I just see absolute punishment ensuing upon whoever. I mean, at least intuitively speaking, just looking at it.
It's beefy. So gun's probably going to weigh 10-ish pounds unladen, but you can get these clever mercury recoil reducers that are a stainless steel cylinder that contain a volume of mercury.
No way.
Yep. And you shake them and they go, and you throw that in the buttstock and that helps soak up that recoil. These things are not to be equipped with muzzle brakes. That is absolute blasphemy. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it. And yep, so a big double gun, 2 triggers. I don't know if I want like a second leaf sight on that one or if I just want a single leaf and I want it regulated at 100 yards.
What do you mean single leaf regulated for a certain range?
Let me walk you through this rifle a little bit here, Mark.
I have a follow-up question too.
So these guns predominantly are open-sighted rifles, right?
Right.
Sometimes you'll see them in like, say, if you had a 375, either an H&H or a flange magnum, you'd have a telescopic weapon sight equipped to it, usually a low-powered variable, 1 to something, right? So we turn it to 1x to stop the charge if need be, turn it up to 4, 5, 6, 8 to take a little longer shot. But most of them are going to be slick top. Some may not even have a provision for any kind of scope mount on there. They're meant to be fired open sights. Many of them would have either a quarter rib or an island type rear sight on which you would find either a fixed safari style rear sight, which is a shallow V notch. A lot of times they're a flat black color and they either have a little tasteful gold inlay like a vertical post that you would then lollipop your ivory or gold front bead on. Or I remember who was it? Was it Chapuis out of France? I think, or maybe it was Searchy. They had a diamond inlaid front sight.
I'd go with a fiber optic.
My man.
You can get a fiber optic if you get a Sabati.
I was just kind of teasing.
No.
It seems. I have nothing against that fiber optic sites. It just seems out of place.
It is kind of. It's a little distasteful.
I thought
That's the Canadian tuxedo.
Get you riled up a little bit.
That's the Canadian tuxedo of front sights in double guns.
I digress. We go back to the quarter rib or the island rear. So you have your primary sight, and that's regulated usually for your closer shots, say 50, 75, or 100 yards you pick. And then you have a little folding leaf. Flip it up.
Oh.
150. Forward to that. Flip it up. 200.
No way.
Now that's a long shot.
Yeah, not necessarily.
Yeah. Right?
You know.
But you know what wouldn't be a bad play? If you had like a 50-yard regulated and then a 150 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Or 100 and a 150. You know, I don't know how the pros do it.
I don't know either.
I'd have to take a gander. You know, and that'd be pretty cool. That gun is black on black. I want dark walnut. I want some grain flow that runs up through the wrist of that stock. I want a 4-end match, and I want a deep black receiver. Maybe a little gold inlay. I'd love for it to say on the rib 1, and then I'd like to have a matching gun and a different cartridge 2, and then on the bottom of the trigger guard, 1, 2. So I knew that's my number 1 rifle. That's my number 2. That'd be kind of neat.
That'd be really neat.
I don't have the $12,000 to $15,000 that this gun cost me,
or more.
Yeah, I mean, or more. You get into it like a Holland gun, and I mean, you can pay six figures for them.
Woof.
Yeah, so a lot of these are like extraordinarily bespoke pieces, like a Hoffer,
Mm-hmm.
for instance. I talked about that Hummingbird rifle, which is not chambered in 470 Nitro Express. You can get it in 2217, either Mach 2 or HMR, 22 Hornet, or 410. Gun starts at about 80,000 before it goes to the engraver. It has to go to the engraver. By the time you get done with gold inlay,
By law.
yeah, there's Peter Hoffer says no, you can't. It has to go, must go. By the time you get done with your engraving, your gold inlay, your jewel inlay, if you want to go that route, you're north of six figures pretty quick. 2.2 pounds though.
Jewelry that can kill.
Yes.
Since we're talking about the 470,
Yeah.
I'd be curious as to why you said 470 is the easy button.
Because it's still factory available.
Okay.
Like and through obtainable channels. Like
I thought maybe it was a nostalgia thing.
No. I think you go over to a country that has dangerous game to hunt. 470 Nitro is likely to be on the shelf.
Gotcha.
At the ammunition retailer at the safari camp. Hornady still loads it. We've got a couple different offerings. DGS, DGX. Federal still has 470 Nitro Express. Kynoch, which was an old ammunition manufacturer that was synonymous with building ammunition for this kind of thing, actually went up, defunct. And Kynoch cartridge boxes are quite collectible, and they're really cool. They have a super industrial logo, and they made stopper cartridges, loaded stopper cartridges. And Federal, I think, was it? I don't think it was Hornady. I think Federal picked it up after they did that. And so there's still ammunition viability out there. Very few rifles on the American scene chambered in the cartridge.
Right.
The closest semblance, like I said, I've seen some Ruger number ones that had been custom reconfigured. There really isn't anybody making American double rifles besides like Connecticut Shotgun Manufacturing Company. That's about it on American doubles. European doubles all over the place. Yeah. Value proposition in the Sabati double. Good guns.
I gotta say, I'm surprised to see that it's actually pushing the 500 grain projectile at 2150 according to the box. But then it is funny to see that at 100 yards, they're assuming that's where you're zeroed. At 200 yards, you've dropped 8.9 inches, and at 300 yards, you've dropped 30.8.
Yeah. Oh, it's a rock, man.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
you're
absolutely.
Throwing a stone out
You're
there.
you're shooting a celestial body out of
This is essentially the African version, if you will, of like a CQB gun. You know, like solely intended for close up. Oh, S word. This is my last chance.
I think much of there's like a certain gusto around the cartridge because there are modern centerfires that absolutely tar and feather this thing from like a performance standpoint.
Yeah.
Like a good one is 460 Weatherby, 458 Lot. These are guns that you can order right now in a turn bolt. You can equip them with the muzzle brake. They have a modern stock design that helps mitigate recoil. In fact, a friend of mine had a 458 Lot in a Weatherby Mark V dangerous game rifle. And that is a monster cartridge. It's a 500 grainer at 2450, 2500, somewhere in there. So 45 caliber. So, we're shaving a little frontal area off that bullet, but we're also adding a little bit of sectional density and
a lot of velocity.
Yep. And he took the muzzle brake off. He goes, shoot it. And it took me minutes to work up the stones to pull the trigger. And I ripped that thing off. And the DGR was a lightweight gun. They still are. I think you can still get one through the custom shop. And the Lot is a full-length H&H case, open up to 45 caliber. So 458 diameter bullet. And so it's close to the same length, a little bit different diameter. It's got a big belt on it. And I ripped that thing off, and it was like waking up my dead ancestors at that point in time. That thing just ripped without the brake on there. And I was like, okay, I didn't die. I couldn't get that action open and get another round in play fast enough. Like, it was a riot to shoot. 505 Gibbs is another giant that I fired. I was far more terrified of that gun, although that gun was pretty heavy. That was a CZ Safari. And that was a religious experience. Like that is a monster truck of a cartridge.
Oh,
It's a 525 grainer. It's in the low twos. I'd have to look at the ammunition again, see what that thing was moving, and just a brute of a cartridge. But so there are rounds out there that bring more to the table in terms of performance value. Much of the appeal to the cartridge is the ability to have it chambered in a double for that rapid follow-up shot. And then I think a little bit of the nostalgia. Walking around with a double over your shoulder and a cartridge belt just full of these gigantic, like you said, Glock barrel-sized rounds. And there's just, I don't know, there's just something innately fascinating about it.
Yeah, it's sort of like the 30-30 of that world,
Bingo.
almost. Like you feel this nostalgia about it.
Yep.
But that, I mean, what you're talking about with the modern cartridges is really just, I mean, it's a matter of modern design. Like kind of what I was referring to earlier is that they start with a cage that was, born in the early 1900s, and then so many things modernize around it, but you still have to fit this in the same chambering, as it was chambered in 1907 or whatever. And so, Hornady or whoever's loading it is probably thinking to themselves, well, we have this new powder. It would work really great if there was something different about it, or whatever. It doesn't get loaded with cordite anymore, or we have new bullets and things like that. But it still has to retain the original cartridge dimensions and such. And so, it just makes sense that other things would eventually be developed around increased technology or modernized technology. But to the point of what we said at the very beginning, the fact that it still exists and is still relevant, still has factory loadings, is very cool.
Oh, I think so. If anybody has a double rifle they want to give me for Christmas, I take it off your hands, I guess. And I thank you.
Yeah. Very much. I mean, that's not even asking for a friend. That's just asking.
I think it'd be great to load that thing down, fill that case up with some cream of wheat, and just have like a pretty anemic 1,000 to 1,200 foot per second load and go hunt some whitetails with it. Could you imagine doe hunting with that? Just feel like a real sir.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
There's so much space in here. If you loaded it down, aren't you going to end up with just like a giant
air
pocket in there?
They make fillers.
They do.
Yep.
Even right now, I mean, it's not. There's some room in there.
A little Maraca action.
They make fillers. You can get
so you're not blowing yourself up.
Bingo. You can get like a fiber filler or a foam filler. You ever seen the filler rod that you use when you're like caulking trim, for instance? They make something kind of like that you can use in there for reduced charge loads, for practice loads.
Yeah.
Oh, you asked about regulating, and I failed to touch on it. So these double rifles, 2 barrels, and there's a couple different ways of doing it. Either that gun, those barrels are soldered together, and they are fixed in a position, but they're bent and tweaked and moved on a jig prior to the final locking down, and they'll regulate them so that the bullets print next to each other.
I mean, that's part of the cost of these rifles is the difficulty to get them to essentially have the same POI.
Yes.
When you've mated these 2 barrels together.
Yes. Other designs can incorporate little grub screws that actually put tension on the barrel. And this, I think, is far less popular because there's obvious failure points that can occur.
Right.
Sounds like a lot of messing around.
And then a lot of messing around. Yes. So 2 barrels, they're running parallel to each other. You would move a grub screw. It would push on a barrel that would change its point of impact. Much like we would adjust a turret on a rifle scope.
Right.
Okay, we're just physically moving the barrel.
The free floaters are just losing their minds thinking about this right now.
Yep. And just so you can get those 2 to print next to each other. And a lot of these guns, like if you do a quick Google search for like double rifle regulation, and you see some of the groups that they put up, whether that's from Holland & Holland or Searcy or Chapuis or whoever, Sabati, doesn't matter, Merkel. And they've got like their 50 meter or 100 meter target. Those things are on top of each other. And it's just like, woof, that is neat.
That is cool.
Super cool.
People don't really, I think, understand the complexity or the weight of what that is. Because a lot of times I think people think that there's like a lot more gross movements in terms of like, when you move your scope like 1 click or something like that, or a couple clicks, it can make a big difference on paper downrange. People don't realize how little that actually means something.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you're working with two barrels
mechanically, soldering them and all this stuff, and then connecting them to the same receiver, like mind blowing.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and you think about like what you buy a rifle, you put a scope on it, you go to get it zeroed, you're like, oh, this took 4 clicks, this took click, you get it in the right spot. You're not really like with the double rifle, or even like think about this. You're like, oh, I changed the load that I'm pushing through X rifle. Well, I need to re-sight in because it's doing this, that. Like, you probably find the load that works, I imagine, which there's probably not a million, you could hand load maybe any variant that you wanted, but factory options.
Most of them are regulated around a factory loading.
Yeah.
Because they want,
because of.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you think about, like you had mentioned, you have like the monoblock, then you have the barrel, then you have a rib, and sometimes you have a top rib, you have a bottom rib, or you have a rib that's, think of it like an I-beam, and then you have the barrel squished together, you have a front side island, all this is brazed or soldered together, welded together. Think of how many times, and you've done a fair bit of welding, heat causes something to move.
That's what I'm thinking about, is the heat driving me nuts. It reminds me a little bit of when you have like some of the old school like vertical style split rings, and you're trying to mount a rifle scope, and you get it all leveled, and then as soon as you start torquing stuff, it goes out of level. So you have to actually plan it unlevel, and then when you tighten it into being level. I remember having to do that all the time, like at the old building when people bring in those vertical rings. But doing it in such a more finite thing with adding heat to metal and just dealing with the expansion. That would be nightmarish.
Yes. And that's why those guns are built one at a time.
That's so cool.
I know it. You want to watch a great video, you go find, there's a PH named Mark Sullivan. Mark and I both have watched these.
Many VHS tapes.
I used to go over to my hunting partner's house, and we watch old Sullivan videos of him hunting Cape buffalo and hippo and elephant and things. And I believe he shot
very action-packed.
Yes, I believe he shot a 600 Nitro Express by the Wesley Richards Company. And watching him touch, I think it was a 600, might have been a 577, but I thought it was a 6. Watching him touch that off in succession, 2 rounds, boom, boom. And my favorite thing is, and Sullivan's a big guy. He's built, right? Spends most of his time in Africa chasing large things with 14-pound rifles. He rips them off, 2 consecutive shots. Boom, boom. And without even skipping a beat, he opens that action up, ding, 2 of those big, giant smoking holes come out. He turns to the camera and he goes, and that's how it's done, Buana. and I just remember thinking, like, he just like subjugated himself to like 300 foot-pounds of recoil energy.
He just got hit by a car.
He has
his
2
retinas,
detached retinas to go with this.
The proverbial Wile E. Coyote, like head back, eyeball sticking out, and he just turns and just smile on his face. Cape buffalo still rolling down the hill, And
you're like, yeah, that is how it's done.
Yeah. And he's very good. You read about guys that are very versed with these rifles, and they practice like we would practice with our archery equipment.
Well, and then you see the guys that are really good with reloads too.
Yes,
like it's crazy.
Yeah, again, understand what the intent and design behind the rifle is. It's for stopping something from killing you.
Yes.
Yeah, so you got to be pretty good.
Everything's gone wrong.
Yes.
You are saving you and your clients and the tracker's lives at that point.
Or you're trying to stop something before it decides it's going to kill you.
Sure. Yeah. It could be,
470 Nitro Express.
There you
They
go.
don't make them much bigger. It's going to bother me what Sullivan shot now. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up or something like that. But, boy, this was a fun one for me.
It was. There's a lot of cartridge talks we've done where we talked about cool cartridges, and I'm like, I want one of those.
Oh, I want one. And I probably will never have one, but I want one.
That's just it. I'm like, I do want one, but I'm also like, I kind of don't. Because I'm probably too much of a wuss now.
I don't want to say never.
I've gotten into my little 6mm and things, and now I'm kind of like, recoil. People can make fun of me for that, but I just, it is what it is.
Well, there you go. We got the box of ammo. We have
It's like finding a roll pin. I got to build an AR.
Yeah.
Jim, let me just slip that into your pocket. Well, I got to have a 470 Nitro. Think
on it for a little bit.
I wouldn't not shoot it.
There's a business proposition.
Remember We did.
You charge your buddies $25 a shot.
Would I actually make up for the price of the ammo that I purchased?
It's fairly expensive.
I think that box ammo was like $2 and change.
Yeah. So you charge your buddies $25 a shot. We make a fun game out of it. What we're going to do is we're going to use some sort of pulley track system. And we're going to make a charging buffalo target.
No.
And actually, there's a double gun shoot that happens near here every year. Every year.
Really?
Yes.
Where?
Winnequa.
Oh,
No
my
way.
gosh.
Yes, they have a double gun shoot there.
I'm just going to throw this out there too, Jim. Because I wrote the copy for it the other day. We did a podcast not that long ago that will air in the fairly near future where you bought a rifle for the podcast. And I don't see why this is any different.
I had to do some math, figure out how many.
You know what we need to do? We introduced elk to Wisconsin. We just need to introduce elephants or Cape buffalo to Wisconsin. Something
didn't a circus escape here at one point in time?
Up in Baraboo.
And
this couple years ago. Yeah, so there's an elephant.
No, it wasn't. Like, there was one a while ago. Or maybe it was
It's like
Nebraska.
4 years ago,
I
5
can't
years
remember.
ago.
Anyway.
One got out in Baraboo. It was found in somebody's backyard eating
You know what?
rhubarb.
It could happen to you.
Right?
Now I am going to add one to cart.
You seem like a person that's interested in
No, man,
preparedness. Is this not true?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, preppers out there, have you thought about that one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What was Bart Simpson's pet elephant name? Stampy. So, yeah.
Should we wrap this up
I think,
so
yeah,
we can
probably.
find
We
Jim a
only
double
need to
rifle?
find 480 people to shoot 470 Nitro Express at $25 a shot to pay for the Merkel. That's not that many people.
Yeah, but you haven't included all the ammo we had to buy to get 400.
Yeah, but you get the brass. So you just reload it.
Oh, yeah, reload.
You're making money at that point, Jim.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're losing money if you don't do this.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening.
Yeah.
This was a fun one. We're gonna jump off here and continue to somehow try and convince Jim to get a double rifle chambered in 470 Nitro Express so we can shoot this ammo that we already have.
Yeah, we got to get rid of this stuff, man.
It's gonna go bad. Thanks for listening. Happy holidays. Do you have a 470? Do you know somebody that has one? Have you just shot one? Are you enamored with it? Do you think it's cool? Are you heading to Africa? Are you going to go hunt dangerous game? Let us know in the comments below. We'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.